2022 GR86, manufacture date 5/22, got about 24K miles on it. Very early 22. I have a sneaking suspicion about what we're gonna find, but why don't we see if I'm proven wrong. The main reason the customer came here was for the RTV cleaning today, but he also requested that we check for an oil leak as he was seeing drips of oil on his garage floor. Keep in mind, the customer also states that he's been using a quick lube chain for his service work since ownership of the car. Why don't we see what that looks like? Sure enough, lifting up the car, it was dripping oil from the metal under tray. We removed the metal under tray and it was essentially soaked in oil leak residue. The rear under tray that covers the transmission is like a fiber material. Unfortunately, when you have a big oil leak, that rear under tray gets soaked in oil. I told the customer essentially that things got to get thrown away now because it's, soaked in oil and it's a fire hazard at this point. So what exactly caused this? Upon inspection after removing the under tray, there was plenty of oil on that lower oil pan and it was pretty clear that the drain plug was leaking. You can see the crush washer poking out from that oil drain plug. You'd think, oh great, they used a crush washer. But that crush washer was probably double the size that it was supposed to be. Pretty wild that someone would even think that crush washer would work for that oil drain plug. Along with the oil pan drops, we'll also do an RTV inspection, again checking if there's a correlation between what we find in the oil and the filter versus what we end up finding in the oil pickup. In this instance, I was actually shocked. 24K miles, the oil should be completely clean. But as you can see, we found a ton of small pieces of RTV in the oil we drained out. This would lead me to believe that the oil pickup would be full of RTV as well. But after removing the oil pan, not as much as I expected, especially for an early 22. I literally expected the oil pickup to be completely blocked off with RTV. But as you can see, still a significant amount. I can already see black strings from the cam carrier, our regular guest, Mr. Dark Gray RTV. Why don't we see what we pulled out of the oil strainer? Again, for an early 22, not as much as I expected. Again, there should be nothing blocking the oil strainer, but not as much RTV as I expected for an early 22. We did pull out a lot of small bits, which actually are the most dangerous as these thin small pieces can get sucked past the oil pickup screen and block oil passages and internal filters once inside the engine. Once again, we use the BGRS oil pan gasket. A much cleaner and faster install, no need for a cure time worrying about applying too much RTV or in the wrong places. Highly recommended if you're taking off the lower oil pan, upgrading the oil pan, adding a baffle, any reason. Highly recommend this oil pan gasket from BGRS. Again, as part of the RTV inspection, cutting open the oil filter, looking between the pleats to see if what we find in there correlates to how much contamination is inside the oil pickup. This time, not much correlation, virtually clean between the pleats, which is actually what I would expect from a vehicle with 24K miles. But again, all that RTV in the old engine oil, really surprising.